Hello and welcome to another Chatbox podcast. It's episode 61 of the Chatbox podcast here today. Right, how are you doing? So let's crack on with this week's guest. Each week, as you know, I have a guest to talk about their career or their job. So let's crack on with this week's guest. It's broadcaster Simon Scholes. Hello, Simon. Welcome along.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Lots of podcasts this week, so I'm fine.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. Just moved home, so basically changing rooms and DIY SOS and everything else all rolled into one at the moment.
That's good. 5 questions today for you, if that's okay.
Fine and dandy. Crack on.
Let's go for it. You ready to rumble in the jungle?
We'll give it a go.
Okay, question 1. Let's go for it. Question 1. Where did you start your broadcast career?
Okay, so my broadcast career kind of started at university. I was training to try and achieve qualification for the Olympics in 2000, got a big injury, and a couple of my friends said, would you fancy giving the university radio station a go? Did Siren FM at Lincolnshire University. It was when they had a whole campus at the time. And came out the back end of that, loving it so much that I thought I'd pursue a career in radio. So that was kind of my first taste of radio, and my first professional taste of radio was working for Galaxy 105.
Like legends before you, like Dan O'Connell, Stephanie Hurst.
Actually, they came to Galaxy after me. So
did you work with Anthony Collins?
Yeah, I was there when Anthony Collins was there, Jojo. Neil Bentley had just started, and there was a presenter called Tony Fisher as well, who was doing the afternoons, and Alex Pepper. That's when I started at Galaxy 105, and then I went on to work at Viking with Hursty and Dan O'Connell as well, when he first started as just doing the bits and pieces with the stickers and things like that before he even got into being a presenter.
Did you work with a friend of mine as well, another broadcaster who I happen to know called Sean Tilley?
I didn't, no. I never worked with Sean at Viking. Sean came after I'd been at Viking, but I have met him a few times at some of the Viking reunions and stuff like that.
Yeah, and one of my friends worked at Viking as well, Steve Jordan.
Oh yeah, I know Steve very well. He grew up in the same neck of the woods as my dad and knew my grandparents and all sorts of stuff. So yeah.
Hull.
And we've done TV together, Steve and I.
Was it Hull?
Yeah, in Hull, yeah.
What TV?
So it was York TV. It was a channel based in York, and it was kind of like a commercial TV channel. And Steve and I did a sports SMS show. So it was a bit like talk radio, but with visuals. And we'd sit down and discuss the news that week in sport, and then people could SMS in their viewpoint, and then we'd talk about it and have a bit of a debate between ourselves.
Yeah, and also one of my friends, Darren Leatham, was at Viking as well.
Yeah, I know Beard very well indeed.
Excellent. Question 2, who were your broadcasting inspirations growing up?
See, it's a difficult one to answer that, because radio was never something I desperately wanted to get into when I was growing up. It was something that kind of fell into my lap when I was at university. I'd always listened to radio, so like the likes of Mark Goodyear, Bruno Brooks, who I went on to work for eventually. People like that, they weren't necessarily inspirations, but people I always listened to when I was younger. Obviously with the likes of Viking, there was Al Dupre, and people like that as well, who I used to listen to doing the late night love affair.
And you also forgot about Diane Luke as well.
Oh, Diane Luke, yeah, blimey, yeah. There's a name from the past.
Yeah, and one of my friends actually was part of Viking Radio. He was good friends with Hursty, Jonathan Gold.
Uh-huh.
If you've heard of him.
Yeah, I've heard of Jonathan Gold, yeah, absolutely.
If you've seen him before or know him.
I've probably met him at one or two of the reunions.
He was part of the Viking Radio original as well.
The original crew, yeah.
Yeah. With Carl Kingston, who I've had on the podcast previously.
Yeah, there's a name from the past, blimey, yeah.
He's now living in Burns, I think it's Bern, Sweden, on the German-France border, Switzerland.
Oh, lovely, lovely. That's where you want to be.
Yep, brilliant. We'll move on to question 3.
Okay.
What is your favourite part about the job in radio?
I mean, music has always been a massive part of my life. So yeah, obviously playing songs and talking in between them, as Kirsty used to often say. Yeah, what's not to like about the job? And the fact that you can communicate and be part of a community as well. I just, yeah, there's some stuff that we've done in the past, and Kirsty and I have got some great stories in the past of how we've helped certain people with just like home stuff and things like that. It's nice to be part of a community. You might not necessarily always meet people, but it's just nice to be part of their lives, potentially help them, have something that they can listen to. Radio is an integral part, I think, of a lot of people's lives. As much as people think things like the internet and TV have overtaken radio, I still always think radio has been a great communicator to people and helped people understand what's happening locally and nationally as well. But I think being part of that community, being part of your local community, wherever it is that you're broadcasting, I think that's a really great thing to have as part of the job.
Yeah, and also you say about lots of different radio stations. One of my favourites as well is it used to be Capital and Kirsty's Daily Dose.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to bob between Viking as well, because I have a lot of friends who used to work on the original Viking FM.
Yeah.
I know Jim Coulson very well now.
Oh yeah, I know Jim.
From Jim and Rosie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I knew Jim when he was just doing the nighttime show, the overnight show. So yeah.
One of my friends, my boss who is now my boss, Pete Mills, used to be part of the Viking FM team.
Yeah, I know Dan Morfitt. So yeah.
Yeah, now Pete Mills is looking after me at my station. He's in charge of editing down my podcast program.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you're in good hands. Definitely in good hands.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, and also I know, obviously I know lots of different presenters through my years of experience, and I got in touch with Kirsty, and she was my first podcast of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brilliant mind.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah, one of our best friends was Chris Miles.
Mm-hmm.
Still is. Because he used to be mentored at Radio Air, if you believe, by Carl Kingston.
Yeah, I do. I know that.
And Chris Miles is a bit of a character.
To say the least.
That's all I'm going to say on him. He's a bit of a character. He reminds me of Stephanie Hurst in the old Kirsty's Daily Dose days, Chris Miles' breakfast show.
Yeah. Which one did the XFM one, or sorry, X Radio or whatever it is these days?
The Radio X one. It reminds me of days of old where they used to just do challenges in the Capital Galaxy studio.
Yeah, well, radio is all about just having fun. That's the main thing. If you're having fun, then hopefully your audience are enjoying it and along for the ride as well.
Yeah, and also question 4: how has COVID affected your life and work? Line of work and life?
Okay, so life, not massively. I mean, obviously, like I said, we've moved home, but we're in a very fortunate position where we could do that. Not many people have been able to during COVID because of furlough and things like that. Work-wise, I know I run my own business now, providing visual marketing and social media marketing. And yes, it has affected it a little bit. Businesses have been a little bit tighter on the purse strings, obviously not knowing what's going on. Now we're slowly coming out the other side. Things are improving, and we're still in summer, although you wouldn't tell by the weather. But yeah, because we're still in summer, it is a little bit quieter at the moment. But yeah, things haven't been as bad as they could have been. Have I seen a downturn? Yeah, absolutely. I think every business has seen some sort of downturn in their turnovers and the amount of work that they're doing. But it hasn't been as bad as it could have been. And I know a lot of businesses out there have folded completely and disappeared because of COVID, including some very large national brands. So Could it have been better? Absolutely. But you know what? I'm still here. I'm still breathing. I'm still paying the bills. So yeah, it's not as bad as it could have been.
And yeah, I was on about this in my previous podcast with some people at Bauer now and other stations. I'm not going to attack them, but they've hired soap stars and
Oh, wow.
TV personalities. But if I was honest with you, do you know who I'd put in a Bauer spot who hasn't got a Bauer spot full time? I'd put Stephanie Hurst in that in an evening slot, if you get what I mean.
I do get what you mean.
I think Steve Jordan back as well.
I think Radio 1 proved it a lot when they I mean, I'm not saying Sarah Cox was a bad presenter, because actually she turned into a very good presenter. But you had the likes of Zoe Ball and Sarah Cox on breakfast, and it just didn't work because they weren't radio people. And then suddenly you bring in Moyles, who's a radio person and understands the medium completely. And that's why that breakfast show works so well, is because he understands radio. Just like Kirsty, Stephanie, she completely understands radio. She completely understands the medium and how to communicate. And I think a lot of radio companies, I don't work in radio anymore, so I'm quite happy to say this. I think a lot of radio companies are completely getting it wrong at the moment, so wrong. They're just trying their hand with these well-known people doing radio, rather than understanding that radio is about communication. Radio isn't about getting the songs away. Radio is about talking to the audience and being part of that community and talking to people. Because if you want to listen to music, you've got an iPod. If you want to listen to music, you've got your phone. So you don't need a radio station getting a song away after somebody talking for 15 seconds. What you need is to communicate and have fun with the audience and get them to enjoy what it is you're talking about. And yeah, I think radio is just completely getting it wrong. And the radio station that comes out and actually starts delivering radio as it used to be, like Australia is, like America is right now, like some of the European stations that you might not necessarily understand what they're saying, but they're actually talking to their audience. Once they actually start doing that, I think that's when you'll find a radio station really succeed.
Actually, Tony Blackburn made a good point. If you've seen what he put on Facebook earlier on today, and he said in the paper, there's too many TV stars on the radio these days, and there's too many it's full of too many TV personalities, in his opinion.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of TV personalities did start in radio. So you got like Richard Hammond was originally a BBC presenter, and like Bruno, my old boss, he went into TV and did radio, and vice versa. So you've got that happy mix, but I don't feel necessarily that it's right, like you say, to be putting all these TV stars just because they're a TV star. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a great communicator radio-wise, and yeah, it just doesn't always work. Sometimes it's fine. Jamie Theakston was god-awful on breakfast when he first started, and now is a decent broadcaster. And maybe what we have to do is give television presenters a chance to find their way of communicating through radio over a longer period of time, rather than maybe expecting them to be good at it straight away. I don't know. Maybe that's the...
Is that Bruno Brooks, your old boss?
Yeah, Bruno Brooks is my old boss, yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah, he's a good lad.
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah, because I was talking about this in the previous podcast, because you had 3 different chart shows.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Bauer chart show, now I'd just bring back Dr. Fox.
Yeah, blimey, yeah, there's another name from the past.
Who's a good friend of mine.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, because I heard of him through Stephanie Hurst, because she took over from his chart show.
That's right, yeah, with
Katie Hill.
Yeah, Katie Hill, yeah.
Who I am trying to track down for a podcast.
Oh, well, I'll put my feelers out for you. I have no idea where she is these days, but yeah, you never know.
Yeah, because I've spoke with Stephanie Hurst. What a legend she is, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I've interviewed Darren Leatham as well.
Yeah.
He told me when him and Sam Hayward went to the Hull Arena back in 2004, because there was a guy who used to be on Viking called Ed Thomas, who's now on BBC News.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's a newsreader these days.
Yeah, and he went to the Oasis gig, and Sam Hayward and Darren Leatham were wandering around the stage for the afternoon show at the Hull Arena, Ice Arena. Yeah, and they got a sound check from Noel Gallagher.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And it was just him, Sam Hayward, and a sound man, and they all got a sound check from Noel Gallagher.
Very cool.
Yeah, and there was no, yeah, as I say, that's brilliant. Yeah, and also, as you say, there's like Stephanie Hurst, who I think should be in radio a bit more full-time in the future.
Well, fingers crossed she does that thing. I mean, I know she's doing filming and stuff like that as well at the moment, but it would be great to have her back on the wireless. And yeah.
I'd give her a job.
We'll see what happens in the future, won't we?
I'd give her a job if I set up a radio station. I'd give Steve Jordan and Neil Fox a job.
Good stuff.
As my daytime lineup. Yeah.
Excuse me. Cool.
Yeah. Question 5, last question on the list. I apologise, I'm going through these quickly.
That's all right, no problem.
Yeah. What advice would you give to young, aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
Don't do it. I don't know. Let's think. So the most important thing I would say is have fun. Put yourself out there. Don't do stuff for free necessarily in this day and age. Yeah, and treat it as a passion. And if something comes from it, then fantastic. And if not, then at least you're still doing something that you actually enjoy doing, rather than feeling it's going to be the next thing that you're going to make $1 million from, or you're going to be the next big Radio 1 star. Just go in there and enjoy what you do. Go in there and communicate with the audience. Go in there and be yourself. Don't be anything you're not. Talk to the audience, and hopefully something will come from that, and people will enjoy what you've got to say, and you'll move on and move up. And yeah, I would just say, just get out there and give it a go. Hospital radio is always a great place to start. I was very fortunate. It wasn't necessarily where I started. I did university radio and then happened to land into radio work straight away. But I still did hospital radio for a while. I still did Kingstown radio when it was on medium wave and things like that. 1080, I think it was 1080 medium wave.
One of my friends who presents the breakfast show on Hull Kingston Radio was on Viking and hospital radio. His name was Pete Tyler.
Oh yeah, I know Pete Tyler. Yeah, absolutely. Good gracious me. I haven't seen Pete in a very long time.
There was a friend of mine, Paul Woodford, as well, who was on hospital radio.
All right, okay. Yeah, no, I never met Paul, but yeah, I knew Pete because Pete and I were at Viking together, and because he was at Magic and at Viking, he was there as a tech op, which is what I started off as at Viking. Before I went on to produce and present and all sorts of stuff. So,
and he actually helped me become a professional radio presenter.
Oh, cool.
Him and Pete Mills helped me through the ranks, but Pete Tyler sat in the studio with me, make sure I didn't take the whole station down.
Yeah, trust me, it's possible. I've probably been there and done it at some point or another. I'm sure plenty of people out there will tell you all about the mistakes I've made in the past. But yeah, for young aspiring broadcasters, hospital radio is a great place to start. Obviously, you do that for free, but when you go into the professional ranks, try not to do stuff for free. I know a lot of radio companies these days will try and get you to do stuff for free if they can get away with it.
Say, for example, I'm using this as an example. This podcast may go out as a syndicated radio show, this style version podcast.
Yeah.
I'm going to charge people 10 quid fee for it.
Yeah,
so I've done 61 of these and 4 of the others, so that's 65, and that's £650 for all my radio work this year.
Exactly. It's about knowing your worth as well, which is very difficult when it's something that you're so passionate about and really want to do.
I know that
so well.
And all the money I raise goes towards bigger and better equipment and making myself a home studio.
Absolutely. Then you get radio bedroom like Kirsty has eventually one day with loads of radio kit and stuff from Radio 1 and Egerton House and all that kind of stuff and old mixers and yeah.
Yeah, and like Goldie, Jonathan Gold has a bit of that as well.
I'm very fortunate. I've got some great kit as well. Unfortunately, I don't have it set up at the moment because, like I say, we've just moved home. But yeah, I'm very fortunate.
One of my friends actually lives in your region of Hampshire, not far from you.
All right. Who's that?
Alan Hyde. He used to be a producer on Ian Collins' talk radio show.
All right. Okay.
He used to be called Alan the producer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, lovely guy. And he lives Hanover, near Handover.
All right. Oh, yeah. Andover. Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah. It's just down the road.
Not far from you.
Yeah, just down the road.
He has his own home studio because he does loads of radio shows from home.
Oh, well, I know about that all too well. One of the shows I used to produce at Viking came from a bedroom. So yeah, and I know it all too well. And then we used Kirsty's house party as well.
She used to do the breakfast show, and then she got shafted to overnights because of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that's a story for another time, I'm sure. Which
I'm not going to go into because she was a brilliant breakfast show presenter.
She is. I'm sure she could still do a breakfast show somewhere.
She won't do a Kirsty's Daily Dose again because that's already been primed.
Well, that time's been and gone, but yeah,
they can never recreate it.
She'll have opportunities in the future, I'm sure.
Because it was built for that era, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And it's a kind of a hard act to follow after Stephanie Hurst.
Yeah, just a touch.
Yeah, I'd never take over a show from her because I know I'm going to fail it.
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. You've got to have a positive mental attitude. You just got to be the next Ben Lister, not the next Stephanie Hurst.
I normally bring my own elements into the show. Like in my shows, I always have to have a Kylie Minogue track. Kylie time.
Awesome.
And in my show, there always has to be interviews.
Yeah. Yeah, I like chatting to people and getting to know people and what they do and all that kind of stuff.
Not a music-based show. I like a music and chat-based show.
Yeah.
So I show some of my interviews in the show as well.
Cool.
Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, Simon.
Pleasure.
Do join me again soon for another Chatbox podcast. But for now, please give it up for the legendary Simon Scholes. This will be available on YouTube and Wix.com. But do join me again soon for another podcast. Thank you very much for listening and watching. And that's a wrap.